Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party. Black Power.
Nation of Brothers. I reported last time, the brothers didn't have no bullets in their guns. Want to clarify that shit right now. We ain't going in like that, goddamn.
Black Power. Black Power.
Black Power. Everybody heat it up?
Heat it up now.
Going in and pour it on. Pour it on. That's 12. 12.
So you find those people right here.
Bobby and me got the front with the assault weapons.
No.
Everybody got some? Hold on. Everybody got some? Let's go. Fall in on column twos. Fall in on Brother Bill. Column twos in the street. Go ahead, brother. DK, make yourself sharp behind the veil. Fall in. Let's go right there, Bill.
Fall in.
Right there. Y'all ready to get it started?
Yes, sir.
Black Power.
Black Power.
Black Power.
Black Power.
Let's move out.
Let's move out.
Don't keep it out.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
What do we want?
Justice.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we want it?
Now.
How we gonna get it?
By any means necessary.
By any damn means necessary. Black power.
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 Come on now. I know y'all can get louder than that back down. Black power.
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 Justice for Alfred Wright. Justice for Alfred Wright.
Good afternoon. I'm Nat Wood, and for those of you who don't know, you're watching 30 frames a second. The last few weeks or so, the last month or so, well, the last couple of years, but certainly the last month or so, has been some of the most volatile in recent memory for black people all around this nation. If you remember the last show, we had a call in from Pastor Douglas Wright, who is the father of Alfred Wright, who was butchered. I won't even say murdered, because that's an understatement. That's really an understatement. Butchered in Texas. This young man was 28 years old. He's a father. He was a physical ed teacher. He was going to one of his patients, one of the people who frequented him. His truck broke down. They put out a search for him. They used 2 dogs, prison dogs that are basically nigger sniffers. They said they couldn't find him after 4 weeks. His father found him. The condition that his father found him in was unbelievable. They found him about 1.5 miles away from the site that they originally investigated. And then something even more warped than what had happened took place. The they put out an autopsy after they got the body, and they listed the cause of death as drug overdose. They threw in every drug that you could possibly think of that no human being would even cop in the same vicinity. And they said the cause of death was drug overdose. What they failed to mention in the original autopsy, because Pastor Wright had a subsequent autopsy done on his son, and what they failed to mention in the autopsy was that this young man was found naked, his skin was cut off, his tongue was cut out, his throat was slit, an ear was cut off, and his eyes were pushed in. which would seem to be somewhat important when you're establishing cause of death and the reasons behind the death. Needless to say, this is becoming a more and more volatile issue. It is my privilege to have with me a good brother who is knee-deep in the struggle in every aspect of the word. He's a teacher, he's a soldier, he's an artist, and we're going to have Pastor Wright and Sister Muhammad call in from Texas. So we're going to be asking them questions. The brother that I have with me is the one and only Shaka Shakur. And they're going to run my opening. When we come back, I'm going to come back with Shaka Shakur, and we'll be waiting for a call from Texas from Pastor Wright and Sister Muhammad, and they'll update us on what's going on in Texas, and we're going to discuss that case and many others. Where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy. All right, we're back. To my immediate right, which is to your camera left, is the one and only Shaka Shakur. And I'm going to kick right to him and ask him his thoughts on this. Somewhere in the show, we'll be finding out what he specifically is doing because, like I said, he's a very active brother. But right now, we're going to talk about some stuff that's going on in our community that is very volatile and really, really affects all of us. There's just so much going on that it's good to have this brother. It's good to be able to talk about these things. My brother, peace.
Peace.
I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me once again.
All right.
Thank you.
There's not only is this case, it should be bizarre, but it's not even bizarre. It's just very disappointing because this is once again, this is proof that we're not just dealing with murderers, we're dealing with monsters. And there's a lot of other things that are going on. The case involving, there was a case in Florida, the Michael Dunn trial. Your music is too loud, and he went back to his car, got a gun, and pumped 10 bullets, killed a young man. Was found, well, they would not convict on the most serious charge of murder, but they did convict him on attempted murder of the people who lived. And what was the other thing they convicted him on? Reckless endangerment. Some strange, you know.
And all
right. But they did not convict him in killing a young man. The same place in Florida, we know they sentenced a young woman to 25 years for shooting in her own wall. And they also convicted a young black Air Force.
That's right. 20 years for self-defense.
Right, for self-defense.
That's right.
Where the person who attacked the young man testified that he attacked the young man. And this was a young man, a 26-year-old black man who was actively
fighting for this country.
Fighting for his country. And there's a few other things. The judge was convicted of selling kids into into the prison system. He got 28 years for that.
8-year-old boy just got shot in the face in Texas.
Right.
I mean in Florida.
Right. And Florida.
By another white man.
Florida is just completely. Well, I can't even say Florida. This whole country is just completely
where it's supposed to be.
Unfortunately.
We're just not where we're supposed to be.
Unfortunately. It's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. I mean, it's not unexpected, but I think the fact that it's not unexpected is disappointing to me, too.
Exactly.
But your thoughts on some of this?
I mean, the bottom line is, like we said, you know, the relationship between the slave and the slave master is just that, a slave and a slave master. We tend to forget. And this is why Avante was found in pieces. You know, tens of thousands of black children and black people across this country being snatched up every day, disappearing. You know, we're not even putting a light on that. You know, that's a whole other issue. I think the biggest thing is we just got to stop being reactionary and get more proactionary. If we deal with the fact as is, you know, like We take these little communities like Williamsburg, where you have the Hasidic Jews or whatever. We don't know how deep their security force is, right? It could be 5 of them running around in the car stopping everybody. But the point is, when you go into that neighborhood, you're expecting that to happen. You know, like they're out here, they're watching me. So what's up with our neighborhood? You know, how are we allowing people to come in? How are we allowing people to feel that comfortable that you can come into my neighborhood, shoot an 8-year-old child, and say I did it, and because you know you're going to get off? You see what I'm saying? We come after the fact, and we got to start coming before the fact.
I am blessed and cursed to be able to bring this to the viewing audience, because in point of fact, if you look at other media, you don't even know that there's anything happening in the black community at all.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, the only thing they talk about in the other forms of media is Obamacare and unemployment, but they never talk about any of the actual issues that malaffect the people of this nation, especially black people. It's, you know, people of color in general, but specifically black people. You know. So the simple fact that I can have you here and we talk about this is mind blowing. A lot of people are in the dark. A lot of people who are not in the dark feel helpless to the situation, to know all of this stuff, to accept what they do know, means that you have to do something, and they don't know what to do, they don't know how to do it, so it becomes
overwhelming. And I can imagine. I mean, we got to start on a local level, like, you know, for instance, deal with what's going on in our community. You know, poverty is the #1 enemy of black people. Always has been. It's a weapon against black people, you know, and poor people in general. But we got to deal with our situation. You know, we wouldn't, nobody takes nothing. You give it to them. You know, we can't hoop and holler after something happens. We got to start strengthening our own neighborhoods right now. You know, getting our soldiers in line, getting our brothers and sisters on point. So this type of stuff, people got to know when you come in the black community, if you violate the black community, there's an instant response. There's going to be an instant response, but we don't give that off because we're too busy waiting for the next, you know, Michael Dunn to come along, the next Trayvon Martin. You know, history best rewards all research. And for people who are watching, go get a book. It's called 100 Years of Lynching. You know, get the book, Without Sanctuary. This is nothing new. You know, we're seeing the mutilation of bodies. You know, now instead of the body hanging on a telephone pole for us all to see, it gets thrown in a bush somewhere. But it's the same thing. You know, Florida, this is where Rosewood happened. So why are we surprised? This has always been the mentality. They're not going to convict a white person. This is not going to happen. And we have to understand that. So to understand that, we had to switch our program, switch our way of thinking to deal with the now. You know, this is where we're at.
There was an article that was in a newspaper out of Atlanta, and it listed 10 of the main reasons why blacks were lynched in Jim Crow. And it had things, I mean, the more things change, the more they don't move at all.
That's right.
And one of the reasons that they had was too loud, they looked like they might have had some, I mean, it was all the exact reasons that are used to murder black people. Right.
We need to keep the language the same. You know, murder, I don't like to use that term murder, because murder gives it this whole legal ramification, and then we start looking for legal answers.
And it's almost PG-13 compared to the stuff that's going on.
This is lynching. We're being lynched. You know, we're being lynched in so many ways. Like the murder, the outright lynching of us by shooting in a car or finding us, you know, in that position. Hell, we still, what happened to Malcolm Shabazz? You know, Malcolm Shabazz was found mutilated. Nobody talks about that. You know, the young man, I forgot his name, who was found wrapped up in a gym mat. He was found without organs. A young man who's an actor was found in the West Coast without organs. You know, we don't even know if Trayvon had his organs. If he was, Avante was found mutilated. You know,
but they were prepared to leave Trayvon in that cooler till hell froze over. They never called.
It was 3 days.
You
know, so we got to understand what we're working with, and once we know what we're working with, then we got to get over. That's how we get over the shock. You know, like little children who live in Palestine, their reality is, you know, bombs. Their reality is explosions.
But they know their reality.
And they know that because their parents teach them that. So they, you know, and it doesn't take away from their childhood. I'm quite sure they still find a childhood and all that. But they know this is my reality. You know, we send our children out. As a matter of fact, when the Michael Dunn verdict was coming down the pipeline, a new Jordan came out.
Right.
at the exact same time.
Right.
So everybody's lined up in front of, you know, the next
Right.
sneaker store instead of being lined up in front of a TV or
Right.
some kind of news source.
Right.
And we know it's not done on by accident. So now the question remains, now that we know this, what do we do? Where's our proactiveness coming in? Where's our information line? How do we defend ourselves? You know, and yes, people say, well, you know, you got to pick up the gun. That's part of defense, but another
Right.
part of defense is lining your interior. Where's our infrastructure?
Right.
You know, people not getting involved not because they're scared, because they're still dependent on the people that are murdering them.
Right.
So I'm not going
right.
to talk about my boss because I lose my job.
Right.
You know, we don't need another Soweto. We need to understand that, you know, we got to speak up right now. We got to do something right now. You know, if they keep people locked in poverty, and I always press on poverty, even though it's not glamorous work, it's not, but it's very necessary. Because if I have to eat and feed my children, I can't really hear about Michael Dunn right now. You know, that blinds me to that. So we're going to have to be proactive and take care of those type of things. You know, so that what happens is Avante walked out of school. But if he was in our school, run by us, more compassionate, and not just a piece of meat in one of their schools, he would have never walked out the door in the first place.
Which is amazing.
You
Which
know?
is amazing.
Like, let's look at those type of things where he gets put into a little room because he has autism and he's just a piece of meat. But if he was in a school run by black people, our people, with love for our people, he would have been nurtured, cared for. He would have never gone missing.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned school because in all of this stuff, and they're forever talking about getting education. You mentioned books. You mentioned Without Sanctuary. I forget the other book.
100 Years of Lynching.
100 Years of Lynching. There was an incident just a week or so ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, where a teacher in a school in Kew Gardens
Said Malcolm was too violent.
Right. He wasn't even specific enough to say violent. He told the kids Malcolm was bad.
Yeah,
and it was
right.
based on some stuff that he saw somewhere and whatnot. It wasn't even based on an objective research that you would think a teacher would do. I mean,
right.
if you're gonna evaluate something and decide that someone should not learn about their own culture, you should at least research what you're doing, especially if you're a teacher.
Exactly.
You know, this was some arbitrary crap, and it plays into what you're saying, that
Exactly.
we do not teach our children.
That's the bottom line.
What you learn is directly related to who your teachers are.
I mean, you know, the teacher in that case, he did the proper colonial job, which was to enforce the rule of the colonizer. You know, they don't want us to think of Malcolm as a hero. That's not their intention. You know, they hope that the movie would just bury him and he'd be done with it. He could be this little icon on the stamp, and that would be it. Now, a whole nother generation, this young boy who will one day be a man, wants to write about Malcolm X. No, we got to assassinate that because no black male figures. We can't have no black male role models except for those who sell drugs, prostitute women, and kill other black people. We don't want a role model like that's why they killed Malcolm Shabazz, because he was turning into his grandfather. They don't want that. So in doing that, I don't even fault the teacher because he's following him, just like Nicki Minaj has this cover with Malcolm. Everybody's going crazy on Nicki Minaj. But I'm like, she ain't the problem.
Right.
You know, we talking about they want to boycott her so that she loses endorsement.
Right.
How about let's boycott the endorsers who pay her to do things like that? You know, we got to start shooting to the next level.
And the poster is like the least of it.
Least of
If you actually, I couldn't get through the video.
Right.
I couldn't. First of all, let me say this: the video is exquisitely shot. It is so beautifully shot that just from a videographer's point of view, you know, you want to study this. The camera work is perfect. It's high definition.
Right.
The content of what she's saying is infantile. It's basically nigga. And sometimes it's like 3 or 4 niggas right in a row.
Right.
You know,
propaganda
it has
job.
nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
The video itself is more damaging than the poster of Malcolm X. But we don't even get into the content of what she's talking about and the deleterious effect that it has on our children. And the teacher says nothing about the content of music that he's probably listening to himself.
Exactly.
However, based upon something that has nothing to do with education or research on his part. You know, I mean, I'm not going to come on this show and tell people stuff that I don't research.
Exactly. But you have a respect for the people
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
your mission is different.
Correct.
You hear your show is about the upliftment of our people.
Correct.
You see, his mission is about the downfall of our people.
Correct.
The industry mission is the downfall. That video, we all know, as fine as it was shot, is propaganda.
Correct.
You know, and it's
Correct.
propaganda
Correct.
to get us
That's why it
to a
was so
certain
finely
place.
shot.
Right. It was.
Right.
You got to get. We want them inside these jails.
Right.
So we need everything
Right.
to get them there. So at this point, though, strategically, militarily, like we should be thinking about counter moves now. Like, where is the positive video with Malcolm that comes out at the same time?
Right.
You know, I'm a firm
Right.
believer, like Elijah Muhammad said, you know, I'm not going to argue about the dirty glass.
Right.
I'm going to put a clean
Right.
glass out
Right.
there. Because people want the clean water.
Right.
They just go in there because there's no other water.
Right.
So now we put all our energy. At the end of the day, Minaj, you know, Jay-Z, they're entertainers.
Right. Right.
They really, you know, we're the only people on the planet that look to entertainers
Right.
as leaders
Right.
or some kind of real role model. You know, they entertain. If we were in medieval day, they would be court jesters. You know,
Right,
you call them
right,
when you want
right,
to
right,
laugh.
right.
So I don't expect nothing from them.
Right.
My thing is, what are those that know doing? You know, and this is going
Right.
out to all my fellow conscious, you know, revolutionary artists.
Right.
That's our job.
Right.
We supposed to be in the lab now, writing this new song,
Right.
putting out this new video,
Right.
you know, having this new
Right.
stage show.
Right.
That's all. We supposed to go
Right.
hard there.
Right.
You know, like when you open up with the video with the brothers and sisters with the rifles, that's a direct answer to a direct situation. That's on that level. But on every level, we should have that direct answer. So if that teacher is doing that, then where's my black teachers?
Right.
Why
Right.
y'all ain't standing up
Right.
inside the school system
Right.
so we can back you up? You know what I mean? It got to be like that. It can't be a Nat Wood on 30 frames a second
Right.
or Shaka Shakur
Right.
on the corner of such and such.
Right.
It's got to be black teachers that's saying, wait a minute.
Right.
You know, as a teachers, we're going to band together as teachers and we're going after that teacher.
Right.
You know, now that's a relevant fight.
Right.
Where are those teachers at?
Right.
You know, and we know what time it is. They scared. They don't want to lose their money or whatever.
Right.
So now we got to start producing those kind of revolutionary teachers who, you know, go ahead. We ain't telling you don't work,
And
but speak up.
The ironic thing is that in the midst of all the madness, in the midst of the Malcolm X poster, and in the midst of the crazy video,
Right.
that irrespective of whether they know it or not, I was able to glean a positive weapon out of this because I acknowledge how well the video was shot, and we are matching their technology
Right.
and their art. The only thing we have to do now is focus on the subject matter and how do we get that out.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
I can look at things objectively,
Yeah, you have to.
irrespective
You have
of
to.
whether or not I agree or
Disagree.
or disagree.
Inside,
you know.
inside everything is a lesson, and that's where the keen eye comes in.
Right, right.
And that's where the proactiveness comes in. When we can look at it and say, okay, I'm not about this, but what can I get out of this to
Correct.
use for me? It was
Correct.
Malcolm that told us, learn everything they
Right.
do and use it against
Right,
them.
right.
You know, but right now we done forgot that rule.
Right.
We just
We
learn,
really
we learned
have.
everything and that don't work for us, and we keeping that. And the
Right.
stuff we could be using, we throwing away.
Right.
You know, and it's a balance act. Like, you know, we are gonna have to at this point. You know, we have to start holding ourselves accountable as well as the system. And when I say that, some people are like, well, you know what they did it. Yeah, I'm paying attention to what they do. But look, man, you know when you're in the military, what they say, you fight against
Right.
problems domestic as well as
Right,
foreign.
right,
Well,
right.
while we fighting the Michael
Right.
Dunns on that side,
Right.
I'm fighting the dudes on my block as
Right.
well. You can't just keep selling drugs and
Right.
murdering my babies.
Right.
You can't do this no
Right.
more. Because see, we have a serious situation, and we need all hands on deck for that.
Right.
You know, because you my brother and sister, I love you, so I'm gonna try to work it out with you. But I can't make excuses for this no more because that weakens the community in the eyes of the enemy.
Right.
You know, we don't know now if we hear a gunshot tonight. We don't know if it's the dudes on the corner or if some Michael Dunn came in my neighborhood and shot somebody.
Right.
I want to get to the point where I know it ain't the guys on the corner.
Right.
Where I know, like if I see something, I know it ain't my people. Somebody else did that. So now we can rally to the movement. And this is the difference between, I'm not saying there wasn't always problems in the black community. Of course there were. But it wasn't to the extreme of self-damaging that it is now. You know, so when lynching happened, people could rally around that because it was clear we wasn't lynching ourselves.
Right.
Somebody else did that. But now with this new kind of lynching, we don't know. First thing we say is, well, they must have did something. I remember when the case first broke out with the Michael Dunn case and Jordan Davis, I heard people say, well, they should have turned the music down. You see, they was too disrespectful. They probably did this. They probably was a gang.
What is that?
That's that media propaganda and our lack of information because we don't get out on the streets and really talk to the young people, know the people that we're talking about. And then at the end of the day, you know, we still love America. You know, we still
But
praying that
is
it's
so
right.
irrational.
Yeah.
That is so irrational. That's a strange sort of logic.
Yeah. But that's that slave logic, man. The slave logic is to protect the master. He's always right. We must have did something. This is how they got us. You know, and we do it every time. Even with Trayvon, people are not going to say it now because it's not the cool thing. But I remember, my ears are on the ground. So I remember when Trayvon first happened, first everybody was mad because he got killed. Then as the case started going, I started hearing black people on the buses and trains about, well, you know, he could have, maybe he should have, the hood on, you know, maybe he should have backed down, or, you know, because our mentality is at the end of the day, we're going to persecute ourselves because it goes back to that teacher and Malcolm. If you're that young and you're told that a man like Malcolm is not good, then who is good? So you start pointing me to people that are no good, that are not teaching me to stand up for myself and be right for myself, you know?
And is that your call?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, I have never seen so many shows that that are always talking about the minimum wage and black unemployment, and the whole place is, I mean, you couldn't tell whether it was a KKK rally or what. The whole table is white.
Is right.
And whether or not they want to admit it, the view is different when it's blue eyes looking down the mountain.
That's right.
Than it is brown eyes looking up the mountain.
Yes, sir.
Blue eyes looking down the mountain, they're only focused on the slide. Brown eyes looking up the mountain are focused on the climb.
That's right.
It's two
Totally
completely different things. If you're going to talk about me, I must be in the conversation. You cannot evaluate me in absentia.
You know, and how about, like, even to go further, Brother Nat, how about the brown-eyed, you know, people start to just do for ourselves?
Correct.
How about that? You know, like,
correct.
We want minimum wage. There's a lot of snow out there. I've been telling young brothers, get a shovel.
Correct.
Get a shovel and make it happen for yourself. Because we know that they don't have anything in plan for us. I mean, Eric Holder, you know, he's fighting for felons to get their right to vote. You know, okay, that is a good thing, but it's at the end of your tenure. You're about to get out of here. This is the last, you know, your man he's not going to be the president anymore. You wait till now to bring up the issue of felons and voting. You know, not only can felons not vote, they can't get housing. They can't get school loans. They can't get some bank loans. There's so much more.
Depending on where they're from, they might evict your grandmother
because you go back to the house. So, you know, so now imagine if he'd have started this argument at the beginning of the terms. All these issues could be on the table now. So I'm not going to just jump and happy. And then why you pick voting? I mean, of all the issues, you want our right? Okay, so now they got a right to vote. You vote, and then what happens? We've been voting.
Surely have.
We vote. We vote for everything.
We surely have.
We vote for everything. So voting is not an issue right now.
And we celebrate the fact that
this one won and that one won.
The horse won. And
I mean, how many times we're going to keep going back to the same situation? It's almost shameful on us at this point. You know, as a black man, I got to keep it real. It's shameful that we haven't woke up by now. Like, you keep doing, there's books on what you're doing. If I slap Nat in the face and then somebody writes a book that every time Shaka gets with Nat, he slaps Nat in the face. And then Nat's children say, well, maybe it'd be different for me. No, it's not going to be different until we make it different. And yes, by any means necessary. And any means necessary means just that. You know, we'll speak peace when peace is there, but you're not going to put your hands on it.
But see, and the example you gave was a good example. I don't know if Pastor Wright, I don't know what happened. I was hoping he'd call it. But the example you gave was a very valid one. Because you know, when you're raising children, if your child is going to school every day and a kid is slapping your kid around and taking his lunch money, you're going to teach your kid to defend himself.
That's right.
You're not going to get up there and constantly reinforce the fact that your son is in his slave mind and that's why he can't do no better because his slave mind won't let him.
It's not going to happen.
You know, I mean, it sounds good. And there might be some truth in that. But that is not an inspirational way to get people to confront the problems that come out.
That's a real life situation. I have sons in school.
Correct.
You know, and the 8-year-old is going through that right now. So yeah, you know, at first I want him to be compassionate to his young brothers out and sisters out there because we teach that in my house. You know, but at the same time I do teach him to defend himself. Like avoid it at all costs. You know, that is your brother. And I do explain to him, he's probably getting picked on at home. You know, he's getting abused at home probably. And that's why he's taking that on you. So I teach him, don't be upset about it. You know, try to love him, but you gotta protect yourself. You know, so don't take him out too hard. But you gotta stand your ground too. And this is what we got to do as a community.
Correct.
We can't keep talking about peace. It's just not happening.
Right.
You know, you snatching our babies, we're killing ourselves.
Right.
It's got to stop at some point.
Right. And you can't allow yourself to be just held in captivity by this thing they call your slave mind.
No.
You know, even if it's true. You know, I mean, every soldier confronts his fear.
Exactly.
Every soldier, I mean,
all of us.
only a madman would go into a life and death situation
With no concern.
right, with no concern.
Nah, it's
you
not.
know,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
irrational. You have to confront your fears and do what you have to do.
Right.
And there is so much at stake. And this has gone on so long that we as, specifically black people, cannot afford the luxury of being held captive
Indeed,
to
indeed.
our
I mean, it's just
slave
like
minds.
we formed the black soldiers, you know, more so for ourselves as black men, and then it turned into as a black community. You know, there are certain disciplines we just don't have that we need to have now, and we need to teach these disciplines. I can't expect people to just, it happens, you know. There's a training. Someone trained us to be like this. There was a 400-year process to get us here. It's going to take a process to get us out of here. You know, we have to teach loving your community. Because if you don't love, first of all, love yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love the community. If you don't love the community, you can't protect the community. You know? So when it's cold, why we turn into someone else to give our coats? We should be doing that, which we do. You know? We should be. So now when there's something in the community and I step up, the people in the community know that, okay, that's the brother that does such and such, and he cares. Let's talk now. We can have this dialogue. We're not strangers in our own community. You know, we know our oppression is based on a slave mentality. We understand our oppression is also based on an economic harshness. You know, it's cold. I need a coat. You got a coat. I can't get a job. I need a coat. So we only taught to take the coat from this guy. Right. So we're gonna intercede that. We're gonna get everybody a coat. Right. Now everybody got a coat. We ain't got to be taking no coats from each other. Now let's have a discussion on why you thought like that. Right. Let's talk about why 5 minutes ago you was ready to take a coat. You know, and then once you peer through that, you'll see the beauty in our people. Because our people are beautiful people.
Oh, man.
Let's not get it twisted. We do a lot, but we're the most beautiful, the most humble, the most loving people on the planet. Yeah. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. We don't want people to think it's wrong. We just got to know how to apply it, that balance. There's a time when you got to not be that way. You got to be protecting yourself and doing for self. And there's a time you got to just be that loving person. It's okay to be balanced. And a lot of our children don't. In our community, period. I'm stop saying children. Our community.
Right.
Period. We've forgotten how to love ourselves.
Hello?
Black Power.
Black Power.
Hey, Black Power.
All right. We're glad you called in.
Yes, thank you for having me on the show today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Sister Muhammad, correct?
Yes, sir.
Excellent,
Hey,
excellent, excellent. Update us on what's going on in Texas, what you're doing in Texas. Let us know the circumstances of Texas. Just feel free to chime in whatever you want. We'll listen to you.
Yes, I'm talking to you from the belly of the beast in Houston, Texas. In the United Snakes of America that we know it and call it, because this nation has continued to be oppressive to our people, and this nation has continued to carry on the ways of lynching and the ways of enslavement of our people. And African people and new African people need to understand the same situation that brought us in captivity is the same situation that's keeping us in captivity. We are undergoing and have continued to be under siege of a war on African people across the globe by the global white supremacists and imperialists who have sought to keep not only black people in this country, but across the globe, and people of so-called color in captivity and oppressed. And so in Texas, you know, the good old boy state, the good old boy capital, you know, us Africans down here, we taking strong stands in our communities and in the areas that are terrorizing our communities. So with the new Black Panther Party for self-defense, each city, we're working on building individuals, building families, relationships. You know what I'm saying? Because you build a family, you build a nation. And like I heard my brother Shaka saying when I was listening before you chimed me on, we have to do for self. You know what I'm saying? We are a strong, beautiful people. We come from the best of the best. We the originators, the creators. You know, so in these days, yes, our brothers and sisters are doing great things. And yes, some of our brothers and sisters are doing some things that need repair and redemption towards, and we have to be our own repair and redemption. So in regards to the situation down here in Texas, we are working to build strong alliances with brothers and sisters who are trying to stand up against oppression. We got people that's getting on the front line, engaging in armed struggle. We got brothers and sisters that are putting together programs so that we could have our own schools and institutions, because in the end, we have to free and save ourselves. So most recently, in fact, this weekend, we just left Jasper, Texas, and Hemp Hill, Texas. A young brother from Jasper, Texas, by the name of Alfred Wright, was lynched. Yes, he was lynched. There was a modern-day lynching that took place in Hemp Hill, Texas. Our young brother was abducted after he called his family to come pick him up when his truck broke down, and he was never seen again until he was found brutally mutilated. His body was dumped by a lake, and his throat had been slit. His face had been peeled off with some type of a chemical substance. His eyes were taken out. His tongue was cut out. His teeth were pulled out, and his ear was cut out. And that took place in Hemp Hill, Texas, in a county called Sabine County. And that county coroner and the sheriff had the nerve enough to put out a report to say that Alfred Wright died from a drug overdose. They immediately started trying to slander his name, and in fact, they tried not to even find the body. But black people of Jasper, Texas, and that community, the family in that community, went out and found Alfred 18 days after he had came missing, when the sheriff cut out.
Yeah, sister, I think, I don't know what they did. They're trying to patch both of you in. If we lost you, call back, because we have Pastor Wright on the line. And Sister Muhammad, if we lost you, call back. Maybe we can get you both on the line. But right now we have Pastor Douglas Wright on the line, who is the father of Alfred Wright. Pastor, if you're there?
Yes, I am.
Hi. Could you turn it up a little bit? I want to make sure everyone hears what you have to say. Bring us up to speed. Sister Muhammad was talking to...
As Sister Muhammad was saying, yes, my son was 28 years old. And we would like to say we were very appreciative and thankful for Sister Muhammad and the new Black Panther Party for what they did to assist us on this past weekend to bring remembrance and to keep remembrance of our son alive. As she was previously speaking, he was a young black man from Jasper, Texas. Not just another black man, he was a professional black man. He graduated magna cum laude from his physical therapy class in Memphis, Tennessee, from the University of Tennessee, and he came back home, he and his family, to try to make a mark here in the community. And in fact, he's the first black physical therapist here in Jasper. And but he was doing home health physical therapy up in the Sabine County area. And as his truck broke down, he called his wife. They have two young sons at home. She could not go. She called us, and we went to pick him up. And when we got there, we could not find him. We started a search immediately. That night, going to the police station and the in correlation with the law enforcement center, the sheriff department, and the police station together. They said they had not seen him, had heard or picked up, but we was kept in touch Thursday night and into Friday. His wife and mother went back up, and the strange things started happening. They brought his watch for them to identify. They went off and left him, but they found him on a farm. The law enforcement, they found him on a farm, and when they made it there, they would not allow him to stay. They ran them off for a few hours. When they went back, they had a piece of syrup hanging on a barbed wire fence. saying that this is where he went through the barbed wire fence, tore his drugs, and then they stretched his belongings off his body over about a 400 or 500 yard area, saying that this is the characteristics of morphine or something laced with TCP, and he evidently got off on some illegal drugs, and he was running out in the woods, and he might be there up to a few weeks, according to how the drugs were off. But nevertheless, we searched for him for 4 days, and they called the search off. They even brought in dogs. Fast feet ahead. One significant thing is the sheriff said on the first day of the search that he had been a meth addict, and he was serving 13 years. On the second day of the search, the assistant fire chief came and said he was a meth addict, and he was in Houston. In 2 days, he was under the bridge naked from his clothes, and then he was 2 weeks before he wanted anybody to find him. So they say your son may be in the woods for at least 2 weeks because of these drugs. But we want you to know that this is a picture that they painted. My son was not a drug user. He was a family man. He loved his family. He loved his job. He was good at both of them. And we know that he was abducted. On the 18th day, or maybe, let me say, on the 4th day, the sheriff called Officer and said, this is just a missing person. We would not give up. They would not even allow us to go back in and search. We're very grateful for Cornell Eck. We brought him in and persuaded them to allow us to search again. And on the 18th day, we found our son, family and friends found our son, only 200 yards, 192 yards to be exactly, from where the dog that was brought in on the second day hit no sign of him. And I was a country boy raised in Mississippi, coon hunting, squirrel hunting. And a good dog can absent something 200 yards.
Man.
These dogs were trained dogs from the prison system,
Man.
2 prison systems here in Texas. And so it seems that they took my son, abducted him, because the autopsy, they say, the first autopsy showed that he had methane, antihistamine, and one other drug in his system, cocaine in his system. And his body, when we found him on the 18th day, even from funeral home personnel said that his body looked no more as if it had been in the elements 4 or 5 days. And so it's evident that he was abducted, he was injected with drugs, that this is in his system, because we have had a second autopsy done, but they had not and would not release the information for his pictures and everything that they done. They would not release it to them, to our second pathologist. But now he has gotten access to them because of the Justice Department that came in, and things have begun to roll. And we're very thankful for Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee out of the 18th Congressional District down in Houston that have initiated the Justice Department coming in. But again, I'm very thankful to the new Black Panther Party and Sister Muhammad because of their expertise in these areas, that they are helping us to press even the Justice Department, because even they are not moving speedily and quickly enough to satisfy the greed and the hunger and the thirst for us to find out who done this hideous deed to a young man who has definitely positioned himself to be an access to society and not a liability in society.
All right, excuse me, Pastor Wright.
This is where we are right now. The Justice Department has come in, and I do have one individual now who's in contact with me every few days.
Excuse me, Pastor Wright. I have Krystal, Sister Krystal Muhammad on the line right now. I just want to say hello to her. And I just wanted you to know that we do have Sister Krystal Muhammad on the line.
Yes. Black Power, Pastor Wright. Black Power, 30 frames per second.
Black Power.
God bless you.
Now, you mentioned the fact that they said that your son, the autopsy was consistent with overdose crystal meth. Is crystal meth? I know of no case where crystal meth causes one to have their teeth pulled out, their throat slit, their tongue cut out, their ear cut off. How did they explain all of this to you? They said crystal meth did all of that?
Well, I think that it's just a picture that they painted, and they thought, first of all, they did not think that we were going to continue to search for him. You have to understand that.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry, go on.
If you have to understand, in this area, if you search the history of this area, they have been doing these things for a while. So they did not think that when they did what they did, that we would follow up, that we would be willing to spend our money. We would be willing to take off our jobs. We would be willing to put our lives on hold to make sure that a modern day lynching would not go unchecked. And so they had to come up with something. Even they painted the picture from the first day that it's drugs, because this turns off society. So on the 18th day, when we found him, the Texas Ranger, who is like the FBI in Texas, when he was overheard saying that this is truly a drug case. Note now, we found him. He had not had an autopsy, had no toxicologist test been done, but he said, before we ever moved the body out, that this is clearly a drug case. So he was putting the finishing touch on the picture that the sheriff started painting on the first day of the search.
Now, Sister Krystal, the new Black Panther Party has become actively involved in this case. It's my understanding that this case is not unique, that there have been a few cases involving black men and, for lack of a better phrase, KKK elements in Texas in the last couple of years or so. Could you tell us what specifically brought the new Black Panther Party into this to the degree that they are involved in this case?
Well, these lynchings of our people have been going on since 1865. It has never stopped. Let's be clear about that.
Right.
The thing about it is, as Pastor Wright has said, our community and other people, you know, sometimes a lynching takes place and we never find the body. There was other bones found at that location. But once on our watch, we know what's going on, you know, saying that we are made aware of it, then as best we can, we should stay into it, and we do. It happened with James Byrd in Jasper, Texas. It happened in Paris, Texas with Brandon McClellan in 2008. It happened again now with our brother Alfred Wright. They continue to lynch our people. They continue to treat our people as if we're chattel, and to them they're hunting down chattel. They want to continue keeping terror to keep order on the plantation. That has never stopped since 1865. East Texas has always been a long planned territory in certain towns. Since I was a child, being born in Louisiana and coming back and forth to Texas, there was always towns where my grandparents and mother would say, that's a Klan town. Vida, we know Vida is a Klan town, Vida, Texas. You got to cut through Vida to go through Louisiana. So it's not no secret about what's been going on. What the deal is we have to stop it. We cannot continue to be prey. We cannot continue to be victims. We have to take our freedom seriously. We have to take protecting our community, taking ownership in our community seriously. This is not a history book. This is not a sideshow. This is real life lynchings taking place. It has never stopped. Look at that website Without Sanctuary. Whenever they lynched our people, this is part of the rituals of the Klan. If you just look at those pictures, those Europeans are put on a Sunday best. You know what I'm saying? They'll sit there, and after they would lynch one of our brothers and sisters, they would take body parts, they would auction them off. They did it to Nat Turner. Remember, they shed his skin and made a Nat Turner Bible. This is what they always do. This is until we stop being in denial that we're still in bondage and that they have these regimens from the police to the Klan to the courts to the Justice Department. They all backing up this same system of oppression. We have to take a strong stand. We can't continue to be divided. It's going on with it the same day that we stood with the Alfred Wright family in Hemp Hill, Texas on Saturday. It's the same day this United Snakes of America let Michael Dunn walk for murdering our little brother, Jordan Davis. Yeah. You know, first the police been doing these murders and getting away with it. Oscar Grant, Sean Bell. Now with Trayvon Martin and Jordan Davis, it's like, okay, everyday white boys can just start hunting us down and getting away with it. The Dred Scott is still in effect. You know what I'm saying? So what we need to do is make a clear decision to stand up and you hold these people accountable to their so-called law. And the people see clearly that they're not going by their own so-called law. Surely we should just go on our own and truly be liberated. We done had sit-ins, integrations. It's time to start standing up and doing what's correct. Being self-determined and standing against injustice, being self-determined and taking care of our own communities. So we're going to continue to stand with the Wright family and any victim of injustice and expose it. So what in Hemp Hill, Texas, there's going to be another national. We're having a national demonstration on Saturday, April the 5th at 12 noon, right back at the Sabine County Sheriff's Office. On that demonstration line Saturday, what we're dealing with is what they call the Dixie Mafia. That's a Klan regiment down in that area. So their so-called, one of their so-called top Klan individuals, he was so boldly arrogant, he literally admitted once we circled him what he did, trying to be arrogant. You know, he was standing to the side for a second, you know what I'm saying, while everybody else was sitting back, and he was like, yeah, I know what happened. You know what I'm saying? I said, so you know who got our brother's eyes? He said, yep, both of them. So when he got surrounded, and the state troopers came and pulled him away, but they didn't arrest him. But he admitted what he did. The sheriff, you know what I'm saying? Why isn't that you having no arrest? Because you got to arrest yourself. Because that Klan element runs deep in that county. And it's a lot of suspicious circumstances. And all the stuff that we've uncovered, surely the Department of Justice could have been did an arrest. They'll arrest a black person for drugs in a hot second. But you trying to tell me you can't go in and get these murderers and people who lynched our brother Alfred Wright? They have, you know, we're putting the Department of Justice on notice. They got 30 days. We need some indictments and arrests. They need to stop drag-legging. And after the indictments and arrests, we need conviction.
Sister Krystal, we only got like about 3 minutes tops left. I want to give Brother Shaka Shakur a chance to chime in, and I also want to get a summation from Pastor Douglas Wright. I want to thank you. I want to let Shaka get involved in this, and then we'll hear from Pastor Wright.
Well, like they said, it's right. We definitely got to stand up.
Thank you.
And, you know, it's their constitution that says when the government fails to protect us, we have the right to protect ourselves. In a nutshell, you know, we have to not only protect ourselves from outside elements like the Klan, but we got to start building our own businesses, building our own schools, taking over our communities. As she said, in Texas, it's that kind of lynching. You know, up here, the lynching is different, but it's the same. Right. You know, and we have to really seriously, you know, not only just get up and stand up, but we got to clean up. We got to get ourselves right so that we can go out there and do the right thing and make it happen. You know, because our enemy is consistent, he's determined, you know, and we have to be consistent and determined. You know, and we have to stand behind all of these cases from Avante to Brother Wright. It's the same thing around the board. You know, in New York, people are missing left and right. Every day someone's missing. Every day someone's getting beat by the police. Every day someone's being evicted and kicked out their home. That's lynching as well. Mm-hmm. Because if I don't have a place to live, you know, my second thought is what? So we have to really deal with that and stay united, and that's it.
Pastor Wright, we have 2 minutes. Could you wrap this up? Let us know how we can support you, what your next move is.
Well, you're supporting us in what you're doing. You gave us a voice on this day. We're very thankful for each one of you that God has touched your heart to reach out to us and allow us to reach out through you. And we want you to know that we are so optimistic in this. Thank God I was raised up in the Mississippi in the 50s and the 60s, and we're very closely related to the Mississippi burning scene. My father pastored the Mississippi burning church. I was raised up 38 miles from Swiftson, Goodman, and Cheney being put under the dam. And I integrated the white school there as an activist at 11 years old, the oldest black boy for 4 years. And so he prepared me for this right now, but I never thought it would hit me in the face like it did in 2013 with my own son. But I'm so optimistic in this that through all I've been through, I am declaring that my son is a martyr. He is a sacrifice for justice, and he's a sacrifice to bring injustice that have been hidden, swept under the rug, thrown in corners, that his life and those who he is drawing as Sister Muhammad in the new Black Panther Party, all of those who have came in to help out in this, to make this a pure, all-out war against injustice like never before, because as Martin Luther King said, that injustice anywhere, whether it's in Texas, New York, East Coast, West Coast, South or North, anywhere, is a threat against justice everywhere. And we thank God that my son's life, his blood has been shedded. It was innocent blood, but I know that people such as you, people such as standing up with me, we will not let his blood, his dying, be in vain. He shall live and not die. God bless you, and more power to the people.
God bless you.
All part of people.
God bless you, and thank you for calling in, and we will stay on this. We got less than a minute left.
Can I say our national hotline number right quick in case people want to find
Quick.
out more about the April 5th
Quick, we got 30
demonstration?
seconds.
512-931-4018. 512-931-4018. That's April 5th. We're going back to Hip Hill. We want everybody from across the nation to stand with the Wright family at 12 noon in Sabine County. Black Power.
Black Power. We got 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds. I need you to let us know how, what we can do, how we can get in contact with you, what we can do to support what you're doing.
Every Saturday, 10 a.m., National Black Theater Harlem. You can come there. We train the community. That's on 125th and 5th Avenue in Manhattan or Harlem, New York. And you can reach us on www.blacksoldiers.wordpress.com.
All right, we're out of here in 30 seconds. They should be running the music. And we will see you next week. We appreciate your viewership. This has been an extraordinary show. And I want to thank Brother Shaka Shakur. I want to thank Pastor Douglas Wright and Sister Krystal Muhammad for calling in. We'll see you next week. Peace. We're out.